Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. We are so incredibly honored to present this short film and panel discussion on survivors' experiences of criminalization. Join the conversation with the hashtag #OwningMyBrave. Here we go.
We are thrilled to announce that we have a new name. Our organization, formerly known as Interim Place, is now Embrave, Agency to End Violence. We are excited to unveil a new name for our organization, which has been working to show up for survivors in our community since 1981. Thank you to all of you, our community members, donors, and supporters who showed up for us and participated in our rebrand engagement strategy. Through our new name, we are confirming our vision for a society free of violence. We are proud to reveal a new name, a new look, and brand identity that better reflects our unique values, clients, and service offerings. Our organization has provided a broad range of supports to survivors of violence and thought leadership on eradicating gender-based violence for almost 40 years. For decades, we have tirelessly fought to raise awareness and strive to end individualized and systemic violence in our communities. Since then, our organization has grown and evolved, expanding our services to meet the needs of our communities. We've witnessed the diversity, complexity, and effects of all forms of violence. We believe that everyone deserves a life free from violence, and we aim to ensure that no one is left behind. Our name and our identity are an embodiment of who we are, our values, and what we do. We embrace brave, and we inspire bravery. We want to create a space where survivors can bring their whole selves. We respect and honor the bravery of all survivors and stand alongside them wherever they are in their journey. We are inclusive of all women, two-spirit, genderqueer, trans, and non-binary people facing all forms of violence. We recognize and champion the courage and resilience of survivors and provide the resources and support to enable them to determine their own path forward. Embrave is committed to leading change and strives towards a society free from violence. We amplify the voices of survivors and celebrate what they are able to overcome. We educate the public and we inspire systemic change by action and collaborating with other organizations and stakeholders in our community. This work is important work, and this is important work for our community. This is why we are now in Brave. We are grateful that you have been a part of this journey. Together, we can embrace Brave.
Please join us in the launch of the Unstoried Series, a film series produced by Embrave, Agency to End Violence, formerly known as Interim Place and Fela TV. This premiere event will focus on the construction of dangerous women. Today, we will be premiering Embracing Brave, A Tale of Survival. This short film is based on a true story about a woman who experienced criminalization and was incarcerated in Ontario. She shares her experiences of violence, colonialism, and racism. Through her story, we shed light on the overrepresentation of Indigenous women in Canadian prisons that is a result of colonialization.
Thanks, Rebecca. This video was produced in collaboration with Fela TV and directed by the incredibly talented up-and-coming director, Kimberly Veach. We would like to thank the Community Foundation of Mississauga for making this project possible, and the Ontario Trillium Foundation for supporting the work at the heart of the film, the On Our Own Peer Support Program. Lastly, we would like to thank the participants in the On Our Own Peer Support Program. This film is dedicated to you.
I walk amongst you, and you don't even notice me. I'm just another walking statistic. You don't see me as human, but rather a cautionary tale of what could happen if you don't get your rent in on time. But that's not the case. It wasn't my choices that led me here, rather lack of. My story is one seldom shared, but one that needs to be told. By the time I turned 30, I was the only member of my family still alive. I was the youngest of 5, and I lost every number in my family, including my 4-year-old daughter and my abuser. I have no next of kin. I lost touch with who I am. I lost touch with my Indigenous roots, knowledge, and teachings. I felt like I had nowhere to go for help. For the past 10 years, the longest I was out was 3 months, I've been in a cycle of fear and hopelessness. From the age of 5, I was isolated, mutilated, verbally, spiritually, and sexually abused. I became conditioned, passed from father to husband to whoever would take me. I had been raped, battered, and left in an unsafe place with nowhere to run and no one to turn to. Basically, I felt like I've held my breath for 34 years, waiting for something to give, waiting for a fair chance at life. But I learned a long time ago that life wasn't fair, and I had to keep fighting to survive. I used to walk hand in hand with fear. So I broke into the lobby of an upscale building. I slept on the couch where the mailboxes were. I woke up to the police. They didn't bring me to the hospital or a shelter where I'd be safe. I went to jail. At least I had a pillow to put my head down. I saw myself in all the women there, so I didn't feel alone for a while. In court, the Crown told me I was a stain of society's fabric. I agreed, just for different reasons. When I became incarcerated again, all my hopes shattered. I was left alone with nothing to rely on. I looked at my reflection and didn't recognize the person I saw. All I saw was what everyone saw me for. I could still feel the 5-year-olds inside me screaming, begging for help, begging for someone to really see me. I couldn't ignore her. I owed it to her. I owed it to myself. Sometimes it feels like there's no way out. I've been in and out of the system countless times. It's like a never-ending nightmare. My existence has been this vicious cycle of being used, abused, and seen as worthless like so many like me in the system. I felt like there was no way out. I meet more and more Indigenous women who share somewhat of a similar story. And it's no surprise that we're overrepresented in the prison system. I know I've experienced so much discrimination because of colonization and racism. Working with Embrave, I learned that the violence I experienced was not my fault, that I wasn't alone, and how to begin healing from all the trauma I've experienced. I will never forget one of the quotes they shared with us. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. In the law's eyes, I wasn't good enough to be a part of society. I can go on, but I can't. I won't let it hold me back. I have a point to be made. I know I'm not alone, and that I don't have to carry this burden alone either. I know where I belong and what I have to do. The program provided by Embrave was the most profound, impacting, and unexpected thing I have ever been a part of. Because of this program, my life turned into not a story of struggle, but a tale of survival. I hope to make a survivor of violence feel the way Embrave made me feel. I was believed, I was supported. I knew the violence I had experienced wasn't my fault, and I believed that I deserved better. I hope my story will inspire you the way that Embrave has inspired me. If I can make one survivor feel the way I feel at this moment, then I know my life has turned into not a story of struggle, but a tale of survival.
Wow. I think I can speak for all of us when I say how incredibly honored we are to share this powerful story with you today. We're equally excited to be here today with an amazing lineup of presenters who have a very important story to tell. My name is Julie Schultz, and I'm the Development Manager at Embrave, Agency to End Violence. This panel is taking place during COVID, and therefore all participants on the panel are being filmed separately. Joining me here today are the driving forces behind this very important project. Rebecca Rogers is Manager of Programs and Services at Embrave, Agency to End Violence. Janelle Lucero Ruiz is Programs and Services Coordinator at Embrave, Agency to End Violence. Laverne Lindo, Chastity Beals, and Tacita Marie Crossman were participants in Embrave, Agency to End Violence's Honor Room Peer Support Program at Vania Women's Center. Thank you all for being here today. My first question is for Rebecca. What was the impetus for the creation of this film?
Thank you for the question, Julie. This project was inspired by a story of a participant in Embrave's On Our Own peer support program for survivors of violence who are incarcerated at Vanier Center for Women. Jordan, whose name has been changed to ensure her confidentiality, shared a letter written to Janelle and I that inspired this short film. Powerful and compelling, but not at all unique, this woman's story echoes those of the program participants, as well as the vast majority of women currently incarcerated in Canada. Sadly, we know that up to 90% of those who have been incarcerated in Canada have experienced historical and ongoing violence. With this project, we amplify the voices of survivors of violence who are incarcerated that are largely invisible and create awareness on the stigma faced by these survivors. It is our hope that this story will inspire others to unlearn some of the beliefs that are held about survivors who experience criminalization.
Jordan's story is certainly one that needed to be told. The film's protagonist, Jordan, faces multiple barriers as an Indigenous woman as a result of racism, colonization, and violence. Can you tell us why you chose to highlight her experience in particular?
Indigenous women comprise the single most overrepresented group within Canadian prisons, and Indigenous women are the fastest growing prison population in Canada. Although Indigenous women make up only 4% of the general female population, they represent 35% of the female prison population and 75% of female dangerous offenders. We know that many women who've experienced criminalization is due to their own experiences of violence as well as poverty. We felt that Jordan's story is one that needed to be told. She and so many like her have not only had to contend with violence, racism, and colonialism, but also with a society that renders them invisible. Her story is emblematic of those who bear the brunt of deep-rooted oppressive systems. It is imperative that we address these issues collectively, that we bring them to the forefront, and we work to ensure that no one is left behind. In Canada's history, only 4 women have been categorized as dangerous offenders with maximum security ratings, 3 of these women being Indigenous. Lisa Neve, one of these Indigenous women, is the second woman in Canada to be labeled as a dangerous offender and was sentenced to an indeterminate sentence. She spent over 6 years in segregated maximum security in a men's prison. Neve has since had her sentence overturned and was released in 1999 after her designation was lifted. Renee Ackaby and Krista Walker, also Indigenous women, are currently the only dangerous offenders in Canada, and both women were assigned a maximum security rating. Renee and Krista have spent most of their sentences in solitary confinement. All of these women's historical experiences of trauma were not taken into consideration, including the impact of colonialization. In Jordan's own words, "People look right through me. They don't see me as a human being, just as a cautionary tale. Silence and oppression is violence. Don't leave me alone in the silence."
We urge you to take a moment to reflect on some of your own assumptions that may be harmful to survivors like Jordan. And now, on to our peer program participants, Laverne, Chastity, and Tacita. What impact does support programming such as Embrave's On Our Own program have for survivors with experiences of criminalization?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chastity, and I was a part of the On Our Own group. And the question is the impact that this group had on me. First, I'm not alone, and second, it's okay to feel whatever feelings that you're experiencing or what I was experiencing in life. I'll never forget the amount of support that I was able to gather from each and every woman that was there. I was able to grow from that. You know, being a participant of On Our Own group just really opened me up so I could share my experiences, my fears and my struggles, what I was going through in my own personal life. I deserve to be happy. You know, I appreciate my life right now. You know, I'm so grateful for everything that has been happening in my life. Like, I have a better connection with my kids now, with my family, just, you know, most and foremost me. And from being able to share what I was able to share and staying in contact with the group, you know, sorry, that there was a lot of help when I needed help. I learned to believe in myself again, and just for me believing in myself, that just makes my day gets better and better. My days are like, oh God, I can't even begin to tell you how much my days have been better, but they're, each day, and I'm taking it slowly. But other than that, I'm grateful for meeting Janelle, Rebecca, and the women, and being a part of that on our own group. It made me feel human again. It helped build my confidence, and it helped me to be more optimistic about my future. And now, they helped me to get a bed where I know I'll be able to do something different, and that was getting me into where I'm at right now, a safe bed. It helped me to get safe. It helped me mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They helped me in the direction where I needed to be, and where I'm at right now is I'm a part of their team now. So I just want to say thank you guys for listening. God bless.
Hi, my name's Tacita Marie, and I was a member of the Honor Run group at Vanier. This group means a lot to me. This group made me feel less alone. At least for me, the group is where people with similar experiences, we were made to feel less in the dark and less alone. It gave me hope. It made me feel hopeful that not everyone is going to see me as a criminal first, because sometimes I feel like that. It made me hopeful that when people see me for the first time, they're going to see Tacita first and my experiences second. Being incarcerated is just part of my experiences. This group really did create a sense of camaraderie amongst a group of vastly different women. We all shared the same experiences, though we were all incarcerated. It was nice for everybody to be able to come into the same room and complain about what they wanted to complain about and feel okay about it. Everyone was in there together. It wasn't split up into cliques. It was just one clique, a survivor's clique. Being in the group was the only sense of control I had. We were able to control the way the group ran that day and the way the group was, what was happening that day in the group, when nothing else in our day we were able to control. We all knew that Fridays were better days because group was running that day. When I was having a really hard day or a really hard week, which, let's be honest, happened often, all I could think was, group's coming up, On Our Own's coming. We're going to see Rebecca, we're going to see Janelle, they're going to have fun paper for us. But that group was coming up, and I can just voice my frustrations, my sadness, and my bad thoughts there, where I'd have voices of hope and people that understood what I was going through. We were able to share our stories about hope, our goals, and our dreams for when we left this place. Embrave not only helped us on the inside, it also gave us resources and access to support on the outside. They made sure all of us knew that we were worthy and that we could achieve our dreams and goals that we set for ourselves. I just want to say, first and foremost, I wouldn't be the woman I am today without this group, and I wouldn't be where I am today without this group. Janelle and Rebecca truly, beyond words, made it manageable to be in that place. Thank you.
During my stay there were several other girls, and that also make it very easy, despite the fact that we have our own different concerns and problems. I got to know the group, come in, and they were a breeze, and it was comforting and reassuring to me. As I had no experience, I have never experienced this before. I always sit and wait every week to go to this group, because the support and encouragement that was given to me while I was in the group is beyond none. I don't know of another group that would have given us this kind of support. Not only support physically, but psychologically and spiritually. One of the most striking things to me with this group, there were no judgment, there were no criticism to say, well, you did this and you end up here, or you did this and this is what you're supposed to receive. I really do appreciate this group due to the fact there was no judgment on their part to any of these girls that were there. I have been learning and receiving so much from this group while they were there. They have brought us hope. Hope that we could hold on and believe in ourselves and move on from there.
I'm lost for words. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us today. I hope everyone who is watching this takes a moment to really see Tacita Marie, Chastity, and Laura. We see you. Thank you for allowing us to amplify your voices through this project. Now on to Janelle. What are some common misconceptions that people have about women who have experienced criminalization?
Oh, Julie, that is a very important question. Misconceptions are created by society and social media, perpetuating the prejudices around criminalization and the idea of dangerous women, furthering exclusion, isolation, and marginalization. Some of those misconceptions that we commonly hear are: people who are criminalized are dangerous. People who are criminalized will continue to be criminals. Criminalized women are not good parents. Women in prison are pathologized as deviant because their behavior is understood to have violated gender role norms. We need to continue dismantling the social constructions that uphold their marginalization and this idea of the serving versus underserving survivors of violence.
Thanks, Janelle. Another question for you. Can you tell us a bit about the Honorary and Peer Support Group for women who have experienced violence and criminalization?
Wow, Julie, another important question. This group is made by and for women who have been criminalized. It is intended for all survivors of gender-based violence who have been criminalized or are at risk of being criminalized. 48 women who had experienced violence and were incarcerated at Barnier attended to this program. And this is what they have to say. This group is the #1 reason why women like me don't give up hope and keep going. For the first time, we felt like we were seen as who we really are. We were proud to be in this group so we can grow again. We were able to talk about our experiences of trauma, and it was all because of the facilitators' understanding, empathy, and support. Nobody can go back and start a new beginning, but we can start today to make a new ending. The group watered our roots and helped us to grow. We learned to hold our head high and realize that the system does not define us. We learned to believe in ourselves again. If you want something you have never had before, you will need to do something you have never done before. So this is the first time I have ever gone to a group. Be bold, be brave, be kind.
Thank you for sharing. Their words are so powerful. Can you tell us about women's pathways to incarceration? This question's for you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Julie, for that question. This project is grounded in an understanding of women's pathways to criminalization, which we know are linked to experiences of trauma, violence, and poverty. It is informed by a feminist, anti-racism, anti-oppression model of understanding criminalization that is best understood as a move away from pathologizing the individual experiences of women towards a more nuanced understanding of gendered conditions of violence, racism, colonialism, and poverty. Women's pathways to criminalization are different from men's. Women entering jails are much more likely to have experienced poverty, intimate partner violence, sexual violence, and many other forms of victimization. Relationships with children, family, and others are paramount for women. We know that 1 out of 2 women experience violence from abusive partners. This can elevate their risk for further victimization and can lead to their own involvement in crime.
Thank you so much. Yes, we saw this link in Jordan's story when she talked about her own experiences of violence and oppression. What challenges would someone exiting the prison system potentially face?
Transition and re-entering from jail to the community can be challenging for women. We need to consider that more than 66,000 women incarcerated in jails and prisons nationwide are mothers of minor children. They are more likely than men to have primary child-rearing responsibilities and are more often single parents. Women with children, 90% of women in prison, tend to have fewer support networks than their male counterparts and are overwhelmingly have low levels of education, limited job experience, and fewer supports in the community. Women report greater levels of poverty than men and less employment history immediately preceding incarceration. Finding a safe housing where women can live and support their children is very challenging. Transition and re-entering from jail to the community can be challenging for all survivors of violence. Through this program, we created a referral path so that survivors of violence who experience criminalization were able to seamlessly access Embrave's support and services.
So if you're a survivor of violence who has experienced criminalization, reach out to us at Embrave. We're here for you. And what can we do as community members, as service providers, lawmakers, and so on, to make a positive difference?
Thanks so much, Julie. It is our hope that this project will compel the social service sector and the broader public to consider the linkages between intersectionality, violence, and criminalization, and to undertake intentional and meaningful work to address these issues. Recognizing that the vast overrepresentation of Indigenous women in prisons are a result of historical and ongoing colonial violence, we call upon organizations to implement the Truth and Reconciliation calls to action and the recommendations put forth in the final report of the National Inquiry into the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. As Jordan stated in her letter, by attending this program, I know that I'm not alone, and I don't need to carry this burden alone either. It is our hope that this story will inspire you to unlearn some of the beliefs that you've held about criminalized survivors, to ensure supports and services are responsive to their needs, and so that no survivors of violence are left behind. Jordan, thank you for your bravery, for sharing your story. I know you shared this in hopes that you would allow other survivors of violence to know that they were not alone, but also to create changes in the systems that you were forced to navigate alone. At Embrave, we have witnessed the diversity, the complexity, and the effects of all forms of violence. We know that anyone could experience violence, and we believe that everyone deserves a life free from violence. We are brave, we are bold, we are fierce, and we are confident, unafraid to face challenges head on and advocate for change. We embrace brave and we inspire bravery. Thank you. Thank you, Jordan, for inspiring us. This short documentary is only possible because of you, Laverne, Chastity, and Tacita, as well as all the other survivors of violence that shared their stories with us. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
As we know, the construction of risk in current Canadian federal correctional policy reinforces the systemic bias against Indigenous women and consequently inhibits women from accessing effective programs and services while imposing more restrictive sanctions. We know that the current discourse and policies on women and criminalization parallel the neo-colonial order by maintaining control and dominance over Indigenous women, and subsequently has constructed Indigenous women as dangerous women. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. It has been our honor to share the powerful stories of these courageous survivors with you. We trust that they will move you the way that they have moved us. It's our hope that this project will lead some of us to change our minds and to challenge our assumptions and beliefs.
Kimberly Veach is an incredibly talented up-and-coming director with Fela. Now she will share what this project meant to her.
Hi, my name is Kimberly Veach. I'm the director of Embracing Brave, A Tale of Survival. I'm extremely honored to be here today with all of you for the official launch of Embrave's Unstoried Series. As an activist and an ally in the fight against gender-based violence, I wanted to take this opportunity to acknowledge and congratulate the incredible work being done through this forceful agency. Having had the privilege of working alongside such a committed and progressive organization to deliver a project of this nature was absolutely incredible. It affected me in such a profound way, both personally and professionally. I will never forget the first time that I read Jordan's open letter. I knew right then and there that we needed to bring this story to life and that we had to do it right. As a filmmaker, my goal is to push the boundaries in storytelling and to never skip a beat. Given the statistics as they are that reflect upon marginalized and racialized women in the prison system in this country, especially Indigenous women, they're often forgotten or not known at all. I think we need to remind ourselves that Jordan's story is real, like so many other women in this country. I think we also have to remind ourselves that this was the first time that Jordan gave herself permission to share her story. This was the first time that she understood that the violence that she experienced wasn't her fault. For us, this is an opportunity for us to acknowledge the complexities and adversity that face criminalized survivors. What fueled this film was this vision of empowerment to collectively resist the disappearance of women in the prison system, especially Indigenous women. One takeaway that I'd like to leave with all of you is this idea that we can't live in a world without compassion. Everyone deserves to be seen, heard, and understood. Lastly, I'd like to thank our incredible crew under Fela that made this project possible. Ellyn Jade, thank you, our amazing actress from White Sand First Nation, Michaela Fasulo, our producer, Matt Barkley, our director of photography, Nick Umel, our editor, our executive producers, Tash Critchlow, Director X, and Dean Rosen, and so many more. Thank you.
Visit embrave.ca to learn more or donate in support of Embrave's support programming for women who have experienced criminalization.
On our own, but not